Yes, you heard it right here. I am the true killer of John Lennon, but that's not important right now. What is important is that we're throwing chairs with Frozen State from Flock Studios, developed on the Unity 5 engine that you can pick up for about 12 of your local currency, depending on where you live. And what is it? Frozen State is a brutal survival game set in a world embraced by man-made dice age, meant to protect mankind from pestilent hybrids, bitter cold and numbing fear of the constant companions in the journey through the retrofuturistic Frozen State world. That sounds like a mouthful, but you know what it isn't? The Chairquisition. 1 chair means that it's garbage. 2 chairs means that it's pretty good, or that's kind of meh. 3 chairs means that it's pretty good. 4 chairs means that it's awesome. We also got our categories of doom, mixed with the working shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So let's kick this off. Did Frozen State freeze your box, Ven? Did it leave it in a frozen state?
Was properly and adequately chilled in all the possible ways. Over here on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS, 980 powered with a 4K UHD displayed box of business. It ran. It launched. We'll give it that. Good job. But it doesn't have, well, it's got a small problem. It doesn't stay running. You see, when you die, so does the game. Interesting game mechanic that, but we'll get into that a bit more in depth just a bit later. But outside of that, it has managed to start twice with the E key, which is basically everything for this damn game key not working. That was always fun. But, you know, if you stayed alive long enough to die, you could just restart it yourself. No big issue there. Technically, it runs, so technically it gets 2 chairs.
Yeah, I've gotten stuck in the furniture and between furniture and in walls a few times.
Are we talking about
and I've only had 1 crash upon death. So it's not a repeatable thing, and I've died a lot in that game. So I'll give it 3 chairs. There are definitely some issues. On Fedora 24 64-bit, the i7 6700K, and the NVIDIA GTX 980.
Yeah, and over here on the GTX 1080 with the FX 8370E overclocked at 4.2 gigahertz and running Ubuntu Mate 1604. I died 3 times while exploring a building, and the game crashed the first time. Now, every time I die, the game just outright nopes into the desktop. The FERPs managed to hold a steady 60, which for a Unity game is impressive, until you start to notice the dirty hack the game pulls to achieve that. So for me, it gets 2 chairs.
All right, that's 2 whole chairs for Mixed with the Working. Up next is Shiny and Sounds. Then, does it have cool sounds and cool graphics?
It doesn't have a whole lot of cool anything aside from the snow that apparently is everywhere in Mother Russia. But it doesn't look horrible. It looks very amateur hour, period. But what really adds to the jankiness of it, Leroy jankiness levels, is the animation and character movement of one of the 3 characters that you pick. It's just ass, which I've never played. These type of, you think like PlayStation 2, what was the zombie killing game?
Got to be more specific than that.
That one.
Yeah.
Loved it. And that's just how they move. They're slow, they're sluggish. They do some weird judo kicks and stabs when you try to attack, and it's all at the speed of smell. That's just meh. The details, the environments, the cars look nice. I'll give them that. Some of the weird cars. The buildings, I don't know. I think maybe they might be procedurally generated. Again, don't really know. This game liked to crash a lot, and I was like, yeah, all right, gonna take a break from it. It has sounds, question marks. I honestly don't recall. It's that forgettable. It's kind of like if someone took this War of Mine and kind of flipped it with a top-down view and fired all the graphic artists. How about that? You can see stuff, and I do believe it, in fact, makes noises. So I'm going to give it a 2.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like a late-era PS1 game, maybe early PS2 in terms of graphical fidelity. Like Ven said, I think the buildings are fairly procedurally generated, because some of those layouts just make no sense whatsoever. Rooms within rooms within rooms. Looks like someone kind of was on crack and playing with the D&D dungeon generator tables. And as for the sounds, they're there. They exist. You can hear them. The game tries to do this sort of like listening, approaching mechanic where the enemies get louder as they get closer, but I couldn't tell because it all sounded the exact same. And also, the enemy line of sights are really, really crappy, so you see them before you hear them. Yeah, that's really it. It's fairly lackluster in both the shiny and sounds department, so it gets a lackluster score of 2 chairs.
Yeah, the game obscures everything you're not looking at, which in a technical sense explains how a relatively open area in Unity isn't tanking the FERPs. But it also makes everything stupidly dark. If you're looking at the produced version right now, the video you're looking at, yeah, that's pretty dark. I guess that's also to hide the fact that the monsters have like 2 or 3 different animations a pop, including the walk cycle. I get it. It's the monster remains all the scarier the less you see of it mantra. How did that work for Cloverfield again? Yeah, not very well. The guns sound piss weak, like to the point where you opening and closing a door sounds louder than a frickin' revolver. I can't give it 1 chair because it technically works, but it has absolutely nothing to... It has done absolutely nothing to earn a higher score. 2 chairs, sorry.
Oh, well, Pedro's figuring out how to count. This gets 2 cheers for Shiny and Sounds. Up next is Controls, Ben.
I don't know, man. Controls work. They worked out of the box. The only thing I tried it was, just your keyboard and gerbil. Standard fare. Which I really should have brought up in the animation is, this guy just kind of moonwalks and glides and whatever over the map because you can be pointing this way. I think Pedro said it was like the Brigador game we played. You're pointing this way, but you're going this way. And it's just laughably bad. It does control, though. I mean, you can spin in circles and put your little green reticle over things on the floor and hit E and pick them up and then die because you're just going to be doing that a lot. It works technically. I have no idea how you survive in this game if you have to face more than one dead what the hell ever they're supposed to be. They just look like they took a grab bag.
They have a scorpion tail.
Just like baddies. And they're like, here, fuck them up a little bit. Stick them in the game. Because that's really what you're facing. But like combat, just fucking forget it, man. Just run. It's point and click adventure game effectively with a top-down 3D view. Nothing to write home about. Nothing's broken again. This is kind of what this game is. This is like, technically it's a game. The game. So 2 chairs.
Yeah, I mean, this thing controls like a butt, let's be honest. Pedro is spot on with the Brigador comparison. He's going to get into that a little bit later. But it does the stupid thing where your character moves with the mouse and you have to move the camera separately. And your character's walking like dimension has its own axis of movement. Now, they have a couple ways of dealing with this. You can hit down the X button and it will cause the camera to follow the cursor, which is a terrible idea. Don't do it. It's bad. It's terrible. I thought maybe it would fix some of the control issues. No, it just makes it so much worse. And I mean, like, walking in this is really, really awkward, especially when you're trying to navigate, like, these really labyrinthine, procedurally generated buildings, trying to duck out of the way of these spitters who can, like, spit stuff at you, or people who just randomly start shooting you because you get on their property. I thought this was Russia, not Arkansas.
Texas.
Whatever. The crafting UI needs some work, just because, like, it'll highlight stuff that you have the materials to make, but I would really like a search feature, because scrolling through all the various little menus can be a bit tedious, especially when you're looking for that one fucking thing you need to build. And yeah, no, combat in this is just fucking terrible. I finally clued into you hit them and then you run the fuck away, and then you run back and you hit them and you run the fuck away, and you do this 3 or 4 times and hopefully they die. But yeah, this they function 2 chairs.
Yeah, it's definitely not as bad as Brigador, even though it does the exact same stupid thing of moving forward from the perspective of the camera and not where your reticle is aiming at. Where it is better is the fact that it lets you reorient the camera, which you couldn't do in Brigador. And, well, if you really hate the right click on your mouse, You can just tape it down and the camera will sort of follow around. Not as janky as if you hold X to actually toggle the aiming thing, but you can actually sway the camera around, give or take, and your character will move in the direction that your reticle is pointing at. That said, it's still an annoying ass control scheme, and it doesn't end there. Would you like to change directions while you're moving? Fuck you. That's what the game says, because the moment you try, your character pauses the movement for a full second and turns to face the new direction you told it to move in. Then, if you have the goal to just try and switch weapons in the middle of combat, your character will once again stop everything he or she is doing to ensure that you get your face bitten off by one of the post-apocalyptic monstrosities du jour. So for me, it gets 2 chairs.
All right, that's 2 chairs for controls. Let's wrap this up. Would you say that Frozen State is a cool game, Ben? Did you have fun?
Did you just ask me why our fun section has a question mark on the end of it? Allow me to elaborate. We took this and I opened it. You know, I like to go into just going blind sometimes. It's like, okay, let's load this. Loading screen. Started up and I was like, this is another survival game. Joy of fuck mothering joys. We were very happy about that. The intro, which I'm guessing at some point they were going to have voice acted or read or something, is just this wall of text broken into paragraphs with one animated truck type thing driving. And I got all the way to the part of brilliant writing describing the baddies as part human, part evil. I quit reading that boring ass intro right the fuck there, Brad. I did. Trying to get into the game. Right when I'm launching it, you get into inventory menu. Let's just be hella polite and call it layered, because it's like, maybe it's a Unix system. I know this. Some shit like that, right? What the fuck's going on? It definitely reeks of something. It was like, started out kind of simple and had shit tacked on. The fucking submenus have right-click submenus in them. I was like, yeah, this has been explained to me at fucking what point? The game's like, fuck you, Brad. It's like, okay, I'm just going to arm a flashlight and a knife and we'll see what fucking happens. Again, combat is absolute shit. There's no point. I just run. Fuck you. Right in the ears if you run into a ladder. Pedro will probably explain that a bit more. But for me, what this game was, now normally I try to put a minimum of a full ARN into these games. Usually 2, more often than not 3 or 4 at minimum. This, between the spike crashes, it's not bad enough I died because this game has shit controls and I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. But then it crashes on top of that and I'm like, yeah, good. I don't have to play it anymore. And then you have to go back, and I only managed about 45 minutes of those cycles over and over and over again. Because at the end of the day, this is just a walkabout simulator where you just build a fire and you die. And it's all done on a budget. But I'm not done yet. There's just a little bit more. It's such a bad sign. When it dies and your first thought is, good, I don't want to play this game. And it's going to do that almost for everyone more times than enough to be within that 2-hour refund window. So I think it's a safe bet to say, pick this up and give it a try, because you won't miss it. Fuck this game. 1 share.
Yeah, I managed to survive 1 whole day. So these sorts of survival games don't really appeal to me. I like shooters. I like RPGs. I like dynamic action or interesting stories or something to experience or like interesting gameplay. This game doesn't really have that. And I mean, compounded with just poor controls and dying all the time because the game is literally stacked against you, this doesn't really do much to improve my opinion on the genre. I mean, like, yeah, there's crafting. That's the thing. The survival thing is okay. You have to find your food. I don't know why you need to find water considering you're surrounded by snow, which is, you know, water. I don't know why that's even
an issue. It's albino yellow snow.
I know, right? Yeah. And as for the direction, they're like, Oh yeah, no, if you go to this computer terminal, which you can totally skip, by the way, I went into the game without realizing that there was a mission you needed to go on to, and only through derping around through the tutorial area I was able to find that. Oh, by the way, that tutorial area is a gigantic waste of time, because every time you die, and you will die a lot, you have to restart the game and ransack that entire fucking place. They can't just start you off. Here's some generic equipment you can use. Go have fun. No, you have to go through all the puzzles in the UI. Oh, speaking of puzzles, how do you like opening doors in this game, where you have to click E on the door and then slide the latch so that you can unlock it? And that's the basic door, because you can have like passcode locked doors that you can pick, or if you are lucky enough, they'll just leave a big fucking fuck you sign that says, "This is the combination, you guys. Don't enter it at all costs." And yeah, I mean, the exploration element's kind of weird. It has like this. I want to compare it to Death Road to Canada, because you have the overworld exploration screen, and then when you go to areas, you drill in and you get like this little Death Road to Canada style mini map that you can explore and go through the procedurally generated stuff. It doesn't really do much, because there's usually 1 or 2 points of interest, or some labyrinthine building with horrible monsters at the end that eat you, or some guy with a gun who just decides he lives in Texas and not Russia, as been corrected me earlier. But, you know, unlike Death Road to Canada, at least I don't die for no reason. I die because I freeze to death. Yeah, no, one chair.
Yeah, you can totally tell that the buildings were procedurally generated, because at one point, you can actually see this in the produced version. I went up some stairs, and then when I tried to go back down said stairs, I couldn't, because there was an invisible wall on them, so I had to jump down to the lower level, costing me some health. Good design. But to come in defense of the UI, this UI is impressive considering the rest of the game. You have 4 different tabs on the left side and 4 different tabs on the right side. You can have any combination of tabs open, assuming it's one from each side. Besides that, you can also right-click on just about everything everywhere. But it all looks like someone drew those rounded corner rectangles in MS Paint and then used a bucket with whatever shade of CRT green they found and filled in the blanks. The amount of work that went into the UI functionality is impressive. I think I might actually start using this particular UI to compare other games to. That said, I can't really do that with anything else in the game. Your journal says that you need to find parts to fix the quote-unquote war rig that the introductory plot dump shows up under. You know, the little cutscene. So you go around doing the usual survival bullshit with a janky camera, a character that moves like he or she has Parkinson's disease, and a stupid fucking annoying combat system. Oh yeah, the combat in this game sucks big fat titties, because the moment you run out of bullets, you might as well throw yourself at the nearest hostile thing you find. Instead of taking
you got bullets.
Yes, if you got bullets. But let's just say you're using the axe. If you want to take a quick but effective swing of an axe, your character says, "No, I don't feel like you're appreciating me enough." And so he has to do a little twirly ballet move before the swing proper. And the only thing that does is guarantee you're going to get munched on or during each swing animation. This is, again, very bad design. And the guns themselves, they sound and feel like you're blowing spitballs out of a hollowed out ballpoint pen. And for a game which is very obviously and desperately hard trying to build up an atmosphere, it fails miserably. 30 minutes of dealing with my character being too cold or too hungry or too thirsty is all about I could muster in one go. So no, it's not fun. It's desperately trying to introduce the survival elements du jour to a formula which was quote-unquote popular back in 2006 or 2007. You can see Stalkers and Shadowgrounds and even Fallout's inspirations everywhere you look in this game. Unfortunately, it fails in just about every aspect that made those games fun. One chair.
All right. That was one chair for fun, and we tally all that up, and we get one whole chair for Frozen State. So, final thoughts, gentlemen? Mentalgen?
Pretty easy. What was this thing clocking at 13.99 what stinky kashas?
No, $11.99.
$11.99. You know, it could be $1.99, and I would still tell you to keep the fuck away from it.
Yeah, no, this game is bad. Don't play it. If you want to experience like survival in a cold area, maybe take a camping trip in Canada. Because it ultimately costs less and is more fulfilling than the hour I spent playing this game.
Hey Pedro, what about what's that survival Skyrim wannabe games? A fuckload better than
Savage Lands?
Oh,
Yeah.
Savage Lands. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a much better game. Get that instead. Yeah.
All right. You heard that here. Get Savage Lands. Don't play Frozen State.